Today we start on restricted three-body problem. So my research career started in 1970. That means I have completed 50 years. Though I have not worked 50 years in restricted three-body problem all the time, but I have been working off and on. So my latest PhD, Dr. Prashant, he is also there probably in the audience, Prashant Kumar. He did his research on photogravitational restricted three-body problem. So I visit this once in a while, but maybe now I may be more often visiting restricted three-body problem. So in physics and classical mechanics, the three-body problem is the problem of taking the initial positions and velocities of three-point masses and solving for their subsequent motion according to Newton's laws of motion and Newton's law of universal gravitation. These are the two laws where we employ them. The three-body problem is a special case of the n-body problem. Unlike two-body problems, no general closed form solution exists, as the resulting dynamical system is a chaotic for most initial conditions, and the numerical methods are generally required. Historically, the first specific three-body problem to receive extended study was one involving the moon, the earth, and the sun, because these are the ones which were visible to people when they understood the dynamics, and then they thought, okay, moon mass relative to the earth is small and earth is moving around sun, so they took it as one of the model for the restricted three-body problem. In an extended modern sense, the three-body problem is any problem in classical mechanics or quantum mechanics that models the motion of three particles. In the restricted three-body problem, a body of negligible mass, the planetoid, moves under the influence of two massive bodies having negligible mass. The force that the planetoid exerts on the two massive bodies may be neglected, and the system can be analyzed and can therefore be described in terms of a two-body motion. This two-body motion is taken to consist of circular orbits around the center of mass, and the planetoid is assumed to move in the plane defined by the circular orbits. The restricted three-body problem is easy to analyze theoretically than the full problem. It is of practical interest as well, since it accurately describes many real-world problems. The most important example being Earth-Moon-Sun system. For these reasons, it has occupied an important role in the historical development of the three-body problem. Now I show you, because the people great Lagrange. So you can see here statue of Lagrange at Turin, Italy. Joseph Louis Lagrange. He lived from 25th January 1736 to 10th April 1813. So okay, he has a fairly good life. And you can see the full model is there. Life-size model is there in Italy. Joseph Louis Lagrange was an Italian mathematician and astronomer, later French, shifted to France. He made significant contributions to the field of analysis, number theory, and both classical and celestial mechanics. In 1766, on the recommendation of Swiss Leonhard Euler and French Delambre, Lagrange succeeded Euler as the director of mathematics at the Prussian Academy of Sciences in Berlin, Prussia. He stayed there for over 20 years, producing volumes of work and winning several prizes of French Academy of Sciences. Lagrange's treatise on analytical mechanics, Mécanique Analytique, 4 edition, 2 volumes, Paris, Gauthier, Villiers et Fils, 1788. 1789, written in Berlin, and first published in 1788, offered the most comprehensive treatment of classical mechanics since Newton, and formed a basis of the development of mathematical physics in the 19th century. In 1787, at the age of 51, he moved from Berlin to Paris and became a member of the French Academy of Sciences. He remained in France until the end of his life. Between 1772 and 1788, Lagrange reformulated classical Newtonian mechanics to simplify formulas and ease calculations. These mechanics are called Lagrangian mechanics, and we use it still. Today also I am going to use. Attempting to solve the general three-body problem with the subsequent discovery of the two constant pattern solutions, collinear and equilateral, in 1772, those solutions were later seen to explain what now known as the Lagrangian points or the equilibrium points. You can see here another figure, because I thought every time we remember some great people when we have a lecture. Name of the eminent French scientist just below the first balcony of Eiffel Tower. You can see Eiffel Tower is the world famous, and there sixth is the Lagrange there written. Lagrange is the sixth from the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sixth is the Lagrange. So it is there, imprinted there. So that is the kind of honor that has been given in France. Now you can see the 3 points collinear and 2 making equilateral triangle. These are the Lagrangian points. And you can see here, if you take Sun-Jupiter system as the restricted three-body problem, then you can see these green spots. So these are all asteroids, trazoids they are called. So they will remain around L4, L5. And these were later found. He predicted, but then it was not easy to see them. But later on, people have been able to observe them. So these are all there permanently there, because L4, L4, L5 are stable for mass ratio 0.038. So they are all remain there, and there's still a lot of research can be continued on this. Still a lot of our research has been carried out, but still scope is there to do more research in this area. Now we remember Euler. Leonhard Euler, 1707 to 83, he also had a good life, was the greatest mathematician of the 18th century. His closest competitor for that title was Lagrange, the previous one. He was one of the most prolific of all time. He had publication list of 886 papers and books. 886, friends, you can imagine. Euler's complete work filled about 90 volumes. Remarkably, much of this output dates from the last 2 decades of his life, when he was totally blind. You can imagine, he was blind and still books are being written by him. See the kind of memory he had, because writing in blindness is not easy. Maybe he must be having some assistant, but he must be dictating. Euler's important contributions were so numerous that terms like Euler's formula or Euler's theorem can mean many different things depending on context. Just in mechanics, one has Euler angle to specify the orientation of the rigid body. Euler's theorem that every rotation has an axis. Euler's equation for motion of fluids, and the Euler-Lagrange equations that comes from the calculus of variations. The Euler's formula, with which most calculus students are familiar, defines the exponential of imaginary numbers in terms of trigonometrical functions. But there is another Euler formula that, to use the modern terminology, adopted long-term Euler's depth, gives the value of Riemannian zeta function at positive even integers in terms of Bernoulli numbers. There are both Euler number and Eulerian numbers. Euler numbers and Eulerian numbers, and they are not the same thing. Euler numbers are different and Eulerian numbers are different. So just to differentiate, he has put one as Euler and one is Eulerian. People have put, or he has put. Becoming a mathematician at the age of 13 in 1720, Leonhard enrolled at the University of Basel, graduating 3 years later as a Master of Philosophy. His thesis analyzed the philosophical works of 2 mathematical geniuses, Isaac Newton and René Descartes. His father hoped Leonhard would follow his footsteps to become a Calvinist pastor. Calvinist pastor means a very, who is very dedicated worshipper. But private lessons with Johannes Bernoulli revealed Leonard was blessed with astonishing mathematical talent. Bernoulli was probably the world's greatest practicing mathematician at the time. At that time, Bernoulli was the greatest mathematician. He was also a good friend of Leonard's father, and to discuss Leonard's remarkable aptitude for mathematics. The result was that Leonard was allowed to spend 3 further years studying mathematics under Bernoulli's guidance. So Leonard followed a mathematical rather than spiritual calling. Nevertheless, he remained devotedly religious throughout his life. Leonhard Euler tried hard for a professorship at the University of Basel, Switzerland, but was unsuccessful. On May 17, 1727, he arrived in Russia capital city St. Petersburg, where his friend Daniel Bernoulli was employed as a mathematician at the Imperial Russian Academy of Sciences. With an unusual talent for learning language, imagine, Euler quickly mastered Russian. Beginning work as a physiology researcher, he was soon working in the more appropriate field of physics, becoming a professor of physics in 1730. You can see the kind of talent person had. I'll just give a brief thing to taken from here and there. Mechanica. Euler in 1737 published Mechanica, a great leap forward in the mathematics of movement, made possible by Euler's own innovations in mathematical analysis. Euler would have described analysis as the mathematics of the infinite and the finitesimal. Today we could describe analysis roughly and somewhat incompletely as sophisticated calculus dealing with limits and continuity. In Mechanica, Euler utilized analysis to express the discoveries Isaac Newton had presented 50 years earlier in Principia in a more mathematical, refined and useful way. Euler's laws of motion. After Mechanica, Euler continued to work on the laws of motion. Whereas Newton's laws applied to point-sized particles, Euler derived new laws that could be applied to rigid bodies with real dimensions, devised the principle of linear momentum and angular momentum, and derived the familiar differential equations of motion for rigid bodies, which today are described as Newtonian equations. So this is a rough thing about him. Now, the Jacobi also, our friend who is coming here in this, our Jacobi integral, Carl Gustav Jacobi, Jacob Jacobi, 10th December 1804 to 51. See, his life was not much, only 47 years. And not less than that, was a German mathematician who made fundamental contribution to elliptic functions, dynamics, differential equations, determinants, and number theory. Jacobi was the first Jewish mathematician to be appointed professor at a German university. Jacobi was the first to apply elliptic functions to number theory. Students of vector field, Lie theory, Hamiltonian mechanics, and operator algebra often encounter the Jacobi identity. Planetary theory and other particular dynamical problems likewise occupied his attention from time to time. While contributing to celestial mechanics, he introduced the Jacobi integral in 1836 for a sidereal coordinate system. Sidereal means fixed coordinate system. Now this anyway, I'm dedicating this lecture series to two people, Professor Bhatnagar and my daughter. I dedicated this lecture series to Dr. K.B. Bhatnagar, who taught me the art of doing research and motivated me to join Vikram Sarabhai Space Center and to do research till he left this world on 1st February 2016. I had the great opportunity of his first PhD research scholar. He was the happiest person when VSSC director released 3 volumes of my work on 30th June 2011 on the day of my retirement from VSSC in the space scientific community. It is the core committee there where all divisional heads and higher ups are there. I sent the 3 volumes to him a few days earlier. These were utilized immensely by researchers in the Center for Fundamental Research in Space Dynamics and Celestial Mechanics, under which we are I am delivering these lectures. I also dedicate this, and you can see the picture. Professor Bhatnagar, his wife, a great human being, and who had been giving us so much affection. And I am there, and behind my daughter is there. This side Professor Bhatnagar is there, and this side my daughter is there. I also dedicated this lecture series to my dear daughter, Dr. Ruchi Sharma, who was a great researcher in the modern topic of management, like business model, innovation, Internet of Things, big data, etc. She left this world on 5th July 19 in Coventry, UK. Her fond memories motivates me to carry out these activities. I hope I am able to write a book, which I promised, on space dynamics in her loving memory. I shall need voluntarily help from many of you for this purpose. So you can see here those 3 volumes. The day I retired, I had each volume has a preface. Each paper it contains 57 research papers, 3 volumes. So different areas I distributed, and one of the volume is lying with me. You can see here with me. You can see here. Can you see this? You can't see.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So this is there one of the thing, because this I carried at home, especially for Prashant, because he was writing his thesis, so I carried it home. So it is there in my home. Others are in the office there. So this is how these 3 volumes. My deputy director was Mr. S.V. Sharma. He said you should write each volume with a preface and some acknowledgement like that. So one of the volume I have dedicated to him, to Professor Bhatnagar. Out of these 3, like that I wrote each one. And Dr. Kalam was, my boss. So for him also I had written, dedicated. So partly I had dedicated to him also. He was also a great motivator who has motivated me quite a lot. So the first volume is restricted 3-body problem, including perturbation. So this is where all my papers which were on restricted 3 were included. And the second volume was analytical orbit prediction with chaos transformation. So here all work which was done with chaos transformation was done here. And then the third one is orbital lifetime and re-entry of space. The major areas I worked. So all these were things I included. Some of the papers I left also, but around 57 research papers I included. This 57 or 59, I think, of that kind. So this is the photo in that is scientific. Our SSC, this hall itself is called SSC Conference Hall. And there almost more than 100 people can occupy, around 120 or 30 people. So they are all divisional heads. A huge big center, Vikram Sarabhai Center is a big center. So director, Mr. Veer Raghavan, he was the director. So these 3 volumes you can see, and the other side, right side, is the associate director, and the other one is the head PPG. So that's so this is what I did, and it was liked by Professor Bhatnagar. He says this is one of the best work you have done in your life. This is a rare photo, and this is a workshop with Professor Bhatnagar in collaboration with Professor Zabe and Vikram Sarabhai Space Center contributed. These 3 heads here. See, you can see here Dr. Swaminathan and Dr. Adimurthy is here. So they had these people had a meeting. Actually, he came. Professor Zabe and Dr. Bhatnagar here. They are here. They came to VSSC. First, they wanted to do it in VSSC, but it is being so many foreigners. See, some of the top people. See, this is DIPRIT. I think in our area of celestial mechanics, so many great people. This is Hanrad. He was a student of DIPRIT, but a great. He was the editor of the executive editor for celestial mechanics for a number of years. So now he is also no more. He is also no more, and Professor Zabe is also no more. But he is also another French, very great. I don't remember. This is from Russia. So these are all, Professor Chaudhary, R.K. Chaudhary, you can see, Professor Chaudhary, who started this area of celestial mechanics in India. So Dr. Bhatnagar practically, Dr. Chaudhary was his guide for Dr. Bhatnagar. And for me, he was the examiner, PhD examiner for me. Indian examiner was Professor Chaudhary. He only conducted my PhD viva. And Professor R.B. Singh, Professor Bhola Ishwar, some of you can see, I'm trying to recollect. And then Dr. S.K. Sinha, and this is Dr. Suresh, P.N. Suresh. Now he is the chancellor of he was the director of VSSC for a number of years. and then he was the director of the IAST. First, our space department started in the Indian Institute of Science and Technology. So there he was the one director. Now he's the chancellor. Kalam was the chancellor earlier, Dr. Kalam. After Kalam's passing away, then Dr. B.N. Suresh became the chancellor. And he is Dr. Das Gupta. He also retired as deputy director. So many Radhika. She is also another genius. Dr. Ramnath's daughter. Ramnath was a great physicist. So Dr. Sudhakar Rao. So many people are there, and Dr. Takvi is there here. I can show you. Dr. Takvi is here. So I am here. And Dr. Prahlad, he also retired as the director of NAL. Another, and Mr. M.C. Mathur. So many people, from VSSC came. Dr. Subhash was there here. So many whom I remember, I can say. And the top, S.K. Srivastava, a great, from IIC Bangalore, he was there, but later on he shifted to UN. And Dr. Ahuja, G.C. Ahuja. I started my initial research with him, but then after some time, because I didn't like fluid mechanics, so then, and he had not got his doctorate also, Dr. Bhatnagar, by that time. So once he got his doctorate, then I requested him to relieve me and allow me to do PhD with Dr. Bhatnagar, because my first interest was space dynamics. So you can see, such a gathering, very rare photo. This is a very, very rare to rare photo. So I thought this should find a place here. This is Professor Zave. So Zave, we could meet. I could meet once in VSSC. He came, and once in the conference there, because he was the. You can see here in this. He is the sitting. He is the chairman here. International committee. He was the chairman. He brought. You see, so many people. So many foreigners he could bring. Because of him. Professor Bhatnagar, 2 conferences he did. One more international conference he did later in 90s. 94, I think he did in 94. And then, but this was a great thing. But in 94, more people were from Russia. And this is the book, which was you can say for me, Bhagavad Gita. These are things I have written, because when I took from internet, only a black thing was there. Only AP was written here. So these things morning I wrote. Theory of orbits, because I have got a Xerox copy of this book with me. The restricted problem of 3 bodies, Victor Schiavelli, Yale University, U-Haven, 1967. So this is what. And when we asked him, he said there are I think 2 or 3 years he dedicatedly spent on this to write this book. And it is black color only. The book is having a black color. You may be having in the Center for Fundamental Research, you must be having a copy of this, because I had purchased and that my copy must be there only. So, history of restricted 3 bodies. This I had taken it from from Professor Zave's book. So, the history of restricted 3 body problem begins with Euler and Lagrange in 1772, continues with Jacobi 1836 and Hill 1878, and is followed by Poincare 1899, Levi-Civita 1905, and Birkhoff 1915. This Levi-Civita had 2 research papers. Because Dr. Bhatnagar asked me, you try to get these 2 papers. So in Delhi, NAL, that NPL, their library, they were available. But those days, Xerox was not there, only photocopy. So those days, 1 rupee per copy. Those days, 1 rupee was a big amount, because our scholarship was only 300 rupees. CSIR junior scholarship was 300 rupees. So, but I got both of them I am having. One I think is written in Italian, one is in English. I'm not remembering, but I am having these things. This span of almost 250 years from Euler till now includes many other great names and important contributions. The first contribution, see, he wrote 250, but I added 50 because he wrote his book in 67, and now we are 50 years after that, more than 50 years we are away from him. The first contribution was made by Euler in connection with his linear theories. His principal accomplishment was the introduction of a synodic coordinate system. So Euler introduced the synodic coordinate system, the use of which led to an integral of the equations of motion, known today as the Jacobian integral. Euler himself did not discover the Jacobian integral. Even then, it would have been easier, but maybe Euler was over busy. He is doing so much mathematics. So otherwise, if he had seen one day carefully, he would have done it. Which was first given by Jacobi, 1836, who rediscovered the synodic system. The actual situation is somewhat complex since Jacobi published his integral in a sidereal system, in which its significance is less than in the synodic system, because in synodic is the rotating and sidereal is the fixed. So he published his sidereal system, but what we need it in the synodic system, which is more which we utilize now in the rotating coordinate system. So that is how this theory starts. Now this I have taken from Denby. Denby was my PhD examiner, and who, as I told earlier also, who when he saw my thesis, he found that I am taking mean motion 1 with the oblateness, which is not correct. So he advised me that you take the mean motion, and that is how n square is equal to 1 plus 3a1 by 2. On his suggestion, we derived the things and we got it. So that is how, and now you can see here, this is in from his book, how this comes, because Kepler's third law is used here. Let the origin of the center of mass of two finite masses, and let the origin be the center of mass of two finite masses, and take axis rotating with the masses such that they lie along the x-axis. Take the unit of mass to be sum of their masses. So sum of their masses is unit of mass, and let the separation masses be mu and 1 minus mu, because when you add this, the mass becomes 1, and mu is less than equal to half. The axis will be rotated with constant angular velocity, say omega, say, and the bodies will be fixed at x2 0 0 and x1 0 0, where x1 is negative. Okay, this is on negative side. Let the unit of distance, this, and the unit of time be such that k universal constant becomes 1. Then you put in the Kepler's third law. Kepler's third law we learned, because this my lecture series is going from the very beginning only. So all the things we have learned. So if somebody follows my lecture notes, and which will be available now on YouTube, so you can see everything. So when you write in the Kepler's third law, your omega is equal to 1. So that is how this is. So I thought this I take from Denby. Denby book is also available as a in PDF form, but of course the print is not very good, because somebody a long time back might have put it as a on the internet. So, but you see, but most of the Zabé takes in Zabé book, the more massive primary or the bigger primary is taken on to the right side, and the smaller is taken to this side. But there are many authors who take it otherwise. So this has to be carefully, taken, because you cannot club them. If you start clubbing the two results, then you don't know where you will lead to. So this is a rotating coordinate system, and then this is the figure which I have taken it from Zabé's book. Okay, mu mass parameter is smaller primary mass divided by sum of the primary, which anyway all of you know. So that's why I'm not, those who have not studied restricted three-body problem also can understand easily. And especially we have taken this course, I mean we have put it course in advanced space dynamics to our undergraduate students. So I was looking for a proof which should be simpler. So here you will see that will be shown to be quite simpler. So this is the force function. N square is there, but n square we will assume to be 1, which we have already seen there. And these are the masses, and then these are the distances. If you are taking the more massive primary onto the left, onto the right side, on the positive x-axis, then you will get the coordinate of that will be mu 0, and the other side will be mu minus 1 0. So you can, and any point P is there, that coordinate you can get, M3 point coordinates you can get. So this coordinates you can get. This will be mu 0 and this will be mu minus 1 0. So that is how you get your R1 R2. We have to be very cautious in this R1 R2, because if we see different books, somewhere people will write mu plus, and this will be other wrong. If it is other way around, because many books will be writing it in other way around. Zabé has not chosen. Zabé has taken this book. So since I was following very blindly only his book, so I did not go to any other notations. Only whatever he wrote, same thing I followed in my research also all through. So you can see now the same thing I have redrawn. mu0 and mu minus 1, 0 are the coordinates. The more massive primary and smaller primary, I have written it here because this I was teaching to my undergraduate students, so I have written it, I drawn it. Because when I was teaching from Zabeh's book is not so easy to show the derivation of the equations of motion. Similarly, there are a couple of books, where you can see Danby has also given, and then you have got there are many other books which are giving. But I found that when you write in terms of Lagrangian, the things look very simple. So then I thought, let me do it by Lagrangian. But I didn't get ready-madely anywhere, so I thought I must write myself. So this is a rotating coordinate system, and then you can use your coordinate geometry thing. So when any point P is there in fixed system and coordinate system, when you write their coordinates in the fixed coordinates, capital XY and small xy in the rotating. And you can easily see there that this capital X and Y in the fixed coordinate system as a function of the rotating coordinate system, and the time T, this time and this time will be same, because this T is there. You draw from here a perpendicular, and you draw a perpendicular from here, and you draw perpendicular from here, and this angle is T, and this will be 90 minus T, this will be T, this will be 90 minus T, this will be T. So this angle is T, and now you can see this X is equal to this total minus this, and this is equal to this. So you can use this triangle for this particular thing, and this triangle for this triangle, because T is there here and T is there here. So once you write, this is easy to write this. So you are and from here, when you can write also small x and y also in terms of capital XY, whatever. So here fixed coordinate system in terms of the rotating coordinate system we have written, and as a function of time is the rotation, t rotation for time t. So that is in terms of the angle itself, it is in that way. So now we write the kinetic, because the Lagrangian is written in terms of the kinetic energy minus potential energy. So this Lagrangian helps to derive the equations of motion very, very easily. Kinetic energy is half x dot square plus y dot square, and potential energy is minus 1 minus mu minus, because this is with respect to the more massive primary, this is with respect to smaller, because the more mass of primary is 1 minus mu, and the smaller is mu, and distance is r1, and so this is we have written. Now Lagrangian is this minus v, so minus plus, so this becomes plus. Okay, now we are having in the fixed coordinate system, as a function of the rotating coordinate system, we have this transformation. So x dot y dot, you calculate from here, you differentiate this x dot y dot. So simple differentiation we are doing, and then you write the x dot square y dot square. You square the whole thing, because this will look little longer, but I have, because my students were little, they should not get confused there, so I'm showing you same thing, but it's not I mean, that's why I'm not making much not spending much time on. So x dot square, you can square that thing, and y dot square, and you can see there some of the terms will get cancelled when you add them. So you can, many of the terms got cancelled, and you got into this form, and you see the x dot cos square t plus sin square t, they come that most of the places. So you are left with a simple form, this form, and this also becomes in whole square, x dot minus y, because x dot square y dot square, and then you have got this. So x dot y is there, and x y dot is there. So one becomes x dot minus y whole square, y dot plus x. So this, so you got the Lagrangian. And R1, we need the R1 square and R2 square I have written already. So we need their differential. So the simple differentiation I have done, and this kept it here. Okay. Now Lagrange equations of motion are d by dt of del L by del x dot minus del L by del x equal to 0, because the two variables are there, so two equations we need to write. Okay, and ddt of del L by del y dot minus del L by del y equal to 0. Now you have L, so you have to just find the partial derivatives and just substitute them. Okay, del L by del x dot you got, del L by del y dot you got, del F by del x you got, because L is there with you, and with respect to x you differentiate, and similarly with respect to y you differentiate. So Lagrange equation corresponding to the first equation, you can now write this. Okay, so you simplify this, you comes in this fashion. Now let us define this force function. So half x dot square plus y, half x square plus y square plus 1 minus mu by r1 plus mu by r2. Now del x by del omega by del x will be this, and that is the same thing as here what we are seeing here. So that becomes your first equation, becomes your x double dot minus 2y dot is equal to del omega by del x, and the second equation corresponding to this will be in the similar fashion. We can write it, and we will get this equation to be del y double dot plus 2x x dot equal to del omega by del y. So both the equations we have obtained in a very simple fashion. So this is the derivation of the equations of motion. He has also given, there are some more equations which are in vector form, but equation the student find vector to be a little complicated. So then first I have taught once or twice by vector form. Maybe when I get a time, I will try to do that also. But this looked to me a simpler way to derive the equations of motion. And Jacobi integral, you multiply first equation by x dot and second by y dot, and you get this, and then you add them. Now you integrate them. When you integrate them, then you get x dot square plus y dot square is equal to 2 omega plus c is the constant of integration. This is Jacobian integral, and this is in the rotating coordinate system because our small x, small y are. So this is what we need. But originally the Jacobi did it in the fixed coordinate system. It will represent all possible motion for different values of the Jacobian constant c. C is the constant of integration. Now singularities we get when you put del omega by del x equal to 0, del omega by del y equal to 0. So that will give you this equal to 0 because the right hand side was 0, this equal to 0, and this will give you x dot is equal to y dot is equal to 0, x dot is equal to 0, and y dot is 0, and higher orders also equal to 0. So now if x dot is equal to 0, y dot is equal to, we have 2 omega plus c is equal to 0. They provide curves of 0 velocity. The location of the 5 equilibrium points or equilibria are obtained from del omega by del x equal to 0 and del omega by del y equal to 0. So these are the two equations. So they, from here only we will find out the 5 Lagrangian points. So if a particle is placed at an equilibrium point with 0 velocity, it will stay there. We have seen that acceleration, etc., they are all 0. For this reason, the singularities are also called stationary points. The term liberation points and Lagrangian points are also ruled. There is I have somewhere that the collinear points are actually Euler has found, and the triangular points Lagrangian has found. But maybe the Lagrangian has found all 5 also. But the collinear points were also associated with the Euler also. So these are the thing, the same equation. Now these are the two equations. Solution of the above equation resulted in 5 points. 3 are on the x-axis called collinear solutions, and 2 form equilateral triangles with the primaries called the equilateral solutions. So these are the ones L1, L2. See now here, this is on the side. So it is not because you don't get a figure easily, a good figure in the literature where Zave's model is used. Zave means you take sun to be the bigger primary or more massive to the right side. We don't get easily. That's why in that it will reverse. When this is here, then the whole thing will change. So this is only the coordinate system, but that doesn't change the physics of the problem. Now you can see here that see when you are at Earth, this is the Sun and this is Jupiter. In between Earth is there Mars, and these are all asteroids, and these are the ones which are around L4, L5. They are moving. So our interest in restricted three body on this. See now when you take because the Jupiter is also in a elliptic orbit around the Sun. Small eccentricity is there, and Jupiter is highly oblate also. So when you take a model of elliptic restricted three body problem with oblateness there and study these things properly, people have studied, but still I think it's not completely with oblateness. Things have not still there is a lot of gaps left. what will, because some of their motions are known, whether the model of oblateness or the mean motion, which new mean motion we have located, whether that gives any advantage to this, or the motion is getting more nearer to the computed one and the real one. That one has to see. That research will play an important role. You take a elliptic restricted three-body problem, you take a maybe three-dimensional restricted three-body problem, assume this to be, take it more realistic and work on the identify few asteroids, these trapezoids, and then study their motion in that model and see some of the motions are known actually. So whether that model is able to between real and your computational, whether you are able to match them better. If you are able to match them better, and you can take radiation pressure also, because sun is a source of radiation. So you assume the bigger primary as the source of radiation, smaller primary as a oblate soil, which anyway, this model also I did first time in 87 as a model. And now this model, later on, a lot of people have used it. And I have a citation for that paper. I wrote only a simple paper, but it has got almost 130, 140 citation already appeared every time people are using it. But it has got implications. But that was circular restricted three-body problem. But now we need an elliptic restricted three-body problem. So that will be a great thing. So in between, wherever I feel something I should tell, I tell you. So triangular points are R1, R2. This you can easily get. When R1, R2 is equal to 0, you can simplify them. The proofs are quite simple. So you get, these are the coordinates for the triangular points or equilateral point, you can say. So x is equal to mu minus half and y is equal to plus minus square root 3 by 2. One is for the plus is for L4 and minus is for L5. So these are the locations in the system which Zabbe is using, location of collinear points. Now we will see how to calculate the location of L1, L2, L3. So at L1, now L1 is a point which is this side of the smaller primary. This is the bigger primary, more massive primary. This is the, see, more massive primary was told to me by Denby when he was checking my thesis, or one paper also he checked. He says bigger has no meaning. You must write more massive. It is a mass which plays a role. Bigger means a balloon can be bigger, but mass can be less. So I advise everybody to use the word more massive, not bigger. I'm sharing with you because when I was revising my thesis, during that he wrote a letter and he said, wherever bigger is there, you replace that by more massive primary. So later on, we never use bigger primary, because bigger does not carry the meaning, because these are the masses which are playing role, not the size of this thing. Bigger comes with size. So this is one I would like to share with you. So now here L1 is on this side. Now what happens is, now R1 is distance from here. So this mu, it comes mu minus x, because the coordinate for this is x. So this is more positive than this, positive side. So this is x, mu minus x. And R2 is equal to, this is also this side. So mu minus 1 minus x. So this transformation is important, because the general equation what you have to now substitute with the help of. Now you assume in this case, R2 is equal to psi, this distance. Then R1 will become 1 plus psi. This and this distance between them is 1 plus psi. And from here you can get, now you got it x value also. So x you write in terms of the psi. Now you write the equation this in terms of psi. You write this equation, and then simplify it. You will get this fifth degree polynomial. And Descartes sign rule, in this case plus only one sign change, because Descartes sign rule, when you read, you can understand the only one positive root it will give. So that's the rule. And we used to solve by Newton-Raphson's method. But now, if you use Mathematica or some other, MATLAB, etc., those things, you have ready-made solution. You give this, and you can get by a function there, you can get their roots also. So that's not a now today's day. Okay, to make it because I wanted to tell my students more this thing, same transformation, and then I have put it in this form, and then simplified in this form, and then simplified, and then multiplied, and then multiplied, and then then I have simplified. So this is only to make the students, because they have to derive, and in examination it will be asked derive this. So they have to derive all these steps. So I thought I must tell them, otherwise they will not understand. So that's how this equation is I'm sharing with you. But the algebra is simple. Say now modern time, the students, even if they are good, but they avoid going into calculations. But you see, many times we cannot avoid. We have to do it. So you write fx, how we write Newton-Raphson, you write fx, you write their derivative, and then initial value, this initial value can be found out when you take from the this function itself, one can find out this value, and then Newton-Raphson is equal to fx by f delta x. So you take initial value and then you use this. So after 1 or 2 iterations you can get. So at x is equal to 0.1, your x coordinate is this, -1 point this one, and mu value is this. So this is all tables are given there. In Zabez's book, these tables are given there. So I have to just show to the students. So I have not as such done it. I have taken this value from the book there. Now L2 is in between. So you see your R1 will be this distance. So mu minus x, and R2 will be, now R2 is this is towards the positive side. So it will be x minus mu minus 1. The coordinate of this is mu minus 1, 0. So this is x minus mu minus 1. So this is important. Once you don't commit an error there, then we are safe. Again, we take only this will be, this L1, L2 are nearer to the smaller primary. So this psi is assumed, R2 assumed psi. So R1 will become 1 minus psi, because this is in between. So R1 is that the distance of this fellow. So that will be 1 minus psi, because distance between these two coordinates, the primaries is 1 and this is psi, and so 1 minus psi. And you can get from here, or substitute them, you can get x from here, and then you can get it. And now same thing anyway, I have written in more simplified form, same transformations, and written it in this form, and then this comes. You can get after simplification. When I did, because I was doing by hand, so some error came and then I corrected it. And this is the coordinate thing. And you can again do by the same thing. Now by f psi, and you can calculate the derivative, and you can use the the zero initial conditions in this fashion, and you can calculate this initial condition by putting it comes from here itself, by putting 0, etc. I think we can get from here. You can see the book. Zabez's book is available PDF, so that book also you can, from there you can see. It's easy to calculate from there. So these are the solutions. If you get, so in between it comes. These values are between the bigger, the more massive, and the smaller primary. At an L3, now L3, you can see L3 is this side. So here it will be x is towards the right side. So x minus mu, that is your R1, and R2 will be x minus mu minus 1. So that is at L3. So and then you can get from here. You assume here, now this is the one. Now R1 will be psi 3, because R2 is away from there. So here this is nearer to this. Even then it is not so nearer, but it is okay. This we have to use this psi 3 here, and then we substitute them, and then we simplify this, and we get the. So you can simplify these things. So this is simplification of the whole thing. This also, various authors, some derive it by different methods. I mean, different method means a little bit change they have, and it's not. Here I found Zabez's things are easier. So maybe I was familiar with this from in my research itself, so it was looking easier to me. But others also, some of them are slightly little more complicated. Maybe it might be looking to me complicated. So this is your L3. So at L3 again, because what happened is the psi is of the order of 1 plus something. So then you substitute there near to 1, psi minus 1. So you substitute eta psi minus 1. So that is more than 1. So then this becomes easier to start with. and this value, and then the equation, this equation can be converted by putting psi is equal to eta plus 1. You have to put it here. Then so from here, then you start with this value. This value you start with, and then you can get these values easily. So L3, that is important. Now, these are all the things, mu versus up to 0.5, and then how this x1, x2, x3 are changing. L1. So this is how, at one place they match these two, and then this is x3. So x1, x2 at 1, as mu is, nearer to this, they both, these two come at the one place. This is all just to see. Actually, somebody can do even research on some of the properties of these functions. That also, Zabai's book has done a good analysis there. And if you read that there, I have not, of course, published any paper in that area, but it is possible to publish some things there also. Maybe you can do it with some perturbations. Maybe lateness you can take, or centrifugal force, or Coriolis force you can take, or radiation pressure you can take, or you can take a combination of these two, and then these 2-3 things, and maybe you can see the properties of the functions. So this, you see again that C1 and C3 they match at 0.5. They come same value. When mu is increasing, the C1 is reducing here. Up to this it is increasing, reducing, and then coming. And C3 is increasing all the time, but both are joining at one place at 0.5. And this C2 is going all separate. What happens when you took these functions? How do they behave? Do they really behave same way, or some other way they behave? Now, Jacobian integral, this is the Jacobian integral. Setting this value, we can get this thing equal to C, and then we can get different kind of curves of zero velocity. For a given value of the Jacobi constant, the curves of zero velocity are determined by this equation. These boundaries cannot be crossed by a secondary mass spacecraft moving within the allowed region. So these things only play an important role in the when we get number of different kind of orbits, and some are chaotic, etc. So these are all the location of Lagrangian equilibrium points denoted by small open circles L1, L2, L3. These are typical values where they are passing through that. Associated zero velocity curve for mu is equal to mu2 means mu is equal to 0.2. The zero velocity curves for the 3 critical values of the Jacobian constant: 3.0805, 3.552, and 3.197. That pass through L1, L2, L3. Whatever is passing through L1 has got that value 3.805, like that it is there. So that pass through L1, L2, L3. For this mass ratio of 0.2. The point O denotes the center of mass of the system. Again, here this is again in the he has taken the figure. This is again the other way around. The more massive primary is on to the left side, not the Zabai's model. Now these are all different figures you can see from the taken from the internet to show you different kind of figures, which you can see L4, L5, L1, L2, L3, and a lot of things are there. 3-dimensional, you have surfaces also. Now this is at L4, L5, how these orbits will be. We will study them because we know the coordinates of this. So around that, when you study a coordinate, around that point, you take a small deviation there, and then from that you can study. This is also another curves of zero velocity for mu is equal to 0.3, C is equal to C3, and some different curves. See L4, when you see C is equal to C3, it comes there at L3, that point, it goes full thing, but then as you are reducing, then it is around L4. But 3.05, first is small one is 3.005. So these are all very significant. As you go, nonlinearity will be increasing. The orbits will be, the nonlinear orbits, which will be around L4. As you see, when you take only the first order terms, you have only elliptical path around the L4, L5. But the moment you take non-linear portions, then you will get the orbits of different this thing, and there the Jacobian constant will be also different, because your distance is increasing, and that will play a role in computing your Jacobian constant also. Now motion near the equilibrium points. Now these are the equations of motion. Now we are studying the standard way of the equations of motion. You write in terms of the first order differential equations. You can write them. And now the solutions of 5 equilibrium points, since the first two equations are 0 for the velocity components. Now when you study the equations, we write the A, B are the point of the equilibrium point, and then this is a small variation there. So we study around the point AB, the motion. How do we study? Now that depends whether you are taking linear motion or non-linear motion. It depends on how many terms we take into account. Now we are writing this. So now we have to again use our Taylor's theorem to expand around this function, omega AB at around this function. When your psi del by del x plus eta by eta into del by del y omega 1 by factorial 2 square omega and cube, like that. So for linear analysis, you don't take higher order terms. Only up to this much is sufficient. So these values are only up to second order. When you go higher non-linear terms also, when you take, then you have to take higher order terms also in this expansion. Now equations of motion, when you write this and you use the transformations, I is equal to a plus x is equal to a plus I and y is equal to b plus eta. When you use that, then these equations will look like this. Now these are equal to 0. So equations of motion become this. Now these are the equations of motion around the equilibrium points. And now these are linear differential equations with constant coefficient. The general solutions can be written like I is equal to sigma I is equal to 1 for alpha I e raised to lambda I t, and eta is equal to sigma I is equal to 1 to 4 beta I e raised to lambda I t. Alpha i's are constant of integration, beta I are dependent on alpha i's. So one are independent, but others are dependent on them. And lambda i's are the root of the characteristic equation. Substitute xi is equal to alpha e raised to lambda t and eta is equal to beta e raised to lambda t. You calculate xi dot, xi double dot, because we need them to put them in equations. So you substitute all these things there, and then when you substitute them here, now you can see there e raised to lambda t, all the places there that get cancelled, and you get this equation. Now to solve this, the determinant must be, to have a solution for this, the determinant must be equal to 0. And that determinant must be equal to 0. The integral will give you a equation, fourth order equation, that is your characteristic root. Now this characteristic root only, it will have 4 roots because a fourth degree polynomial. So that will decide you can study the motion now of around the collinear or on the triangular points, and you have to calculate accordingly the values of these partial derivatives. And omega is known to, force function is known to you. Now omega is this, so omega xx we can calculate, and omega xx I have calculated. And then at the collinear point, you know r1 square is x minus b whole square plus y square. But since y is 0, so it is only x minus b whole square. Similarly, r2 square is x plus 1 minus b whole square. Now you substitute those values there. So that gets simplified. So your omega xx value remains what is written here. And omega y is you have a y into 1 minus this value we have already got. So when you calculate this thing, and y is 0 at the collinear points, so omega yy is 1 minus mu by r1 cube minus mu by r2 cube. This can be, omega yy is less than 0. With some algebra you can calculate this. At the collinear point, omega yy will be 0. A little bit algebra you need to calculate, because L1, L2, L3 separately you will have to do a little calculation, and you can prove that omega yy is less than 0. Now motion around the collinear point. So omega xx is this, and omega yy and omega xy. Omega xy will be equal to 0. Omega xy is 0. Omega xx will be, because these are all positive terms, so that can be will be greater than 0. And omega yy, I told you, with little algebra you can prove that is less than 0. So omega xx into omega yy minus omega xy. Omega xy is already 0, so omega xx into omega yy will be less than 0, because one is positive, one is negative. Now the characteristic root you can write. You write lambda square is equal to capital lambda. So you write in quadratic in capital lambda. and where beta 1, beta 2 you define. This is all algebra available in Save's book. So I've taken it from there. That looks to be more elegant there. So, and I was following also when I was doing my PhD. So I was following this in my doctoral thesis also, because I have taken oblateness, but all these equation will only there's omega xi, omega y, etc. will change, but otherwise the form will be same. So lambda is, and then you get capital lambda, and so the capital lambdas are greater than 0, and lambda 2 is capital lambda 2 is less than 0. So your lambda 1, lambda 2 are two are pure real, two are real, and 2 are pure imaginary. So that message we get. So when 2 are real, 2 are imaginary, you cannot get a periodic solution as such. This is all just to illustrate that how we can write this in terms of hyperbolic functions. And general solution, you can see down there, it is in terms of trigonometric function and hyperbolic function. So you must have the real coordinate, the root should vanish there, then only you get a periodic orbit, because our aim was to find a periodic solution. Consequently, lambda 2 are real and lambda 3, lambda 2 are imaginary, since the solution of the variational equation was in this form. So in general, there will always be one term, one of the term, one is one of the real will be going all the time increasing, one will be all the time decreasing. So that term will be unbounded value for psi, and it as t becomes infinity, corresponding to lambda 1 greater than 0, and this solution is unstable. And the periods, the coefficient, these are not independent, since equation 5 we have this value. In equation 5, you can see the equation 5, this condition is there. Equation 5, you can have that. Equation 5 is somewhere there. You can have a look at the book also, because to save time, I must go back. Independent 5. So this condition comes. Consequently, 4 initial conditions associated with equations. This will completely determine 8 coefficient ai, bi, and this algebra is there. This is simple, a little complicated algebra, but one now, because Maxima Mathematica are there, with that you can calculate these things. Because when I was doing hand at that time, I found it little difficult. Especially this term was a little difficult thing. So you can find out all these algebras with little patience. Now, when a1, a2 equal to 0, the real portions are not coming, then you get this, and this will be can be written in terms of the initial condition in this form, and we can have a periodic solution to this. So these are S, lambda, etc., and these are the special velocity components, which when you select them, then you will get only the real portion, the imaginary portion, then the periodic solution, and periodic solution will be this. This is the equation of an ellipse. Equation of an ellipse, and that will have the eccentricity. Eccentricity is also given here. Eccentricity is given by this. So that is how we most of the people they calculate eccentricity with various perturbations, how they increase and decreasing. They use this form, beta 3, etc., because they will change with each perturbation. These numbers will change, as will change. So you calculate those things and you get. So, or they are all retrograde motion. When the motion is going in, x is going towards the left side or top side, and these are the retrograde, because the minus sign is coming there. Here you can see here one of the sign, whenever one is becoming, this is minus. So that minus, so that sign makes it to be retrograde orbit. So these are some of the example he has given. The motion around the equilateral point, these are definite, you can calculate, because r1, r2 are known, so you know the coordinates, and with that your partial derivatives are calculated. Characteristic equation looks this one, simple, more simpler than the collinear points, and then at the equilateral point we can calculate this. Omega x, omega y is there, omega xx, omega xy, yy, and you substitute those values, r1, r2, and x and y. When you substitute these values, so your omega xx will be 3/4, omega xy will be plus 3 square root 3/2 mu minus half. So this I just substituted there. Omega yy is equal to 9/4. So these values are known to us. So substituting these values in the characteristic equation, so this equation becomes, in this, after some algebra, this becomes lambda 4 plus lambda square plus 27 mu 1 minus mu by 4 equal to 0. Okay. Now you substitute capital lambda is equal to lambda square, again like that. So you get this. Now again, the discriminant, this is the discriminant, this is equal to, when discriminant is equal to 0, that critical value comes from here. Discriminant is equal to 0, this, and that comes here. So when you substitute from here, you get the critical mass value from this. This equal to 0, when you put, this is the critical mass value. So the critical mass value, less than this, you get all solutions are. So for most of the system, in our solar system, when I was doing my PhD, this was not violated. But now today we know Pluto Cairo system has got a mass ratio of 0.1. Pluto is the Cairo is 1/10 of Pluto. So there this will fail. So research done on Pluto, we cannot say solar system, every system follows this. Because maximum is for Sun Jupiter, that is 1/1000. So everything is satisfied. But here this is all for linear stability. We are taken only linear analysis. Non-linear analysis, there are 3 singularities also. So those things are we will study them also separately. Now the equations of motion we are studying at the triangular points. We take again the same method and we expand them, and then we take the values and when you substitute those values and you have taken again it, you make an angle, because the orbits are not in the x-axis or y-axis, their axes are tilted by an angle alpha. So you find out this value, and you don't want this value to be there in the new coordinates, means that the transfer, you want to find that angle, so that this does not come. And so introduce a new coordinate system and substitute this and equate to 0 the coefficient of this bar. So you don't get this bar. Then in that, then your major axis will be in the new direction, xi bar axis, provided you take. So that angle comes. So this is a very famous angle there in restricted 3-body form. And many people have found out this increases with oblateness or radiation pressure or decreases like that, So this is how they are able to do it, this thing. So, but the basic is tangent to alpha is equal to square root 3 1 minus b. And you see the geometrically also you can find out. This is the equilateral triangle, and we asked our student to draw this figure, and it has got some marks. So you draw this angle comes, this axis you take this point. If you are taking mass ratio, supposing these are m1 m2, you take a mass ratio of 0.2. So this is 0.2 and this is 0.8. Now you take this point and take this, you join and take it to the end of the circle. First you draw a circle on an equilateral triangle. Where is join? You join this to L4, and this is a line, horizontal line, which is parallel to m1 m2. And when this is there, and when you join this angle alpha is the same angle alpha. You can measure also. You have the mass ratio mu, and you measure it. If you are good in drawing, you will be able to come very near to whatever this mathematical calculation comes. So this mu value tangent to alpha, and you calculate alpha from here, and you calculate from here geometrically. So this is a wonderful figure which gives you the value of alpha. Now this is how your critical mass comes. That I have done it, but same thing. That from Zave's book, this comes like this, and we have the solutions. We have 2 long periodic and short periodic terms are there here, because there are all 4. If the mu or if your mu is less than the critical mass 0.038, so your all 4 roots are pure imaginary. That also we can prove there, and with the help of, then we get this kind of solution in terms of trigonometrical functions, and that will lead to a periodic solution. Now when it is at critical mass, then angular frequencies S1 and S2 at there they will be same. They will become same, equal to 1 by square root 2. Here also I had done with oblateness also it was done, work was done, and with radiation pressure also I found out that the equations, the orbits. Now these are the relations between that long periodic and short periodic, and this is some little algebra they are given, not very difficult. Now you can now again that angle, just like that angle you can find out, that angle what I showed there. You can find out that angle, and in that new when you get that alpha, you are able to eliminate that xi eta the term, so you get in this form, and where the new your characteristic roots are given by this equation, and then the equations of motion are written in this form, and solution is in this form, and these are there. This is again interesting, you know, when we were doing research, I found interesting. So these are all there, and yeah, these are the, you know, the short periodic and long period. This has got short period, this has got long period. These are the two periods, and when they are clubbed together, then we have got, you know, toward pole orbits and pole orbits. That some of my students have done research on that, to publish papers of third pole orbits also. In the elliptic restricted three-body problem and circular also they have done. So secular solutions of linearized equations. Now secular solution of the linearized equation. When this is equal to 0. Now z equals 0 when the roots, you know, when any root is equal, you find, you know, you will get it even when you in differential equations, you will find one t term will come. The same t term comes here also, and because of that you will get a time period term there, and that you have to eliminate. And when you eliminate it, then only you get the periodic solution. So this also we did with the oblateness, because here the solution came simple in Zave's book. But when I was doing it for my PhD oblateness, then I was not able to get the solution easily. Then one of my friend told, you use Laplace transform. So, but Laplace transform was not taught in Delhi University at that time. Neither in MSc nor in BSc. So then I learnt it, Laplace transform, and once I used it, then I could get the solution. So that was it came a good solution. So with oblateness we generated that solution, and later on I used it for that bigger primary source of radiation and smaller primary oblate is right there also I used that solution. So that is how you got xi eta in this. So this with the little algebra I was trying to do, you can prove this is a periodic solution now. You can prove that this is an ellipse. But some algebra is required, and but those who are good in maxima or those things, I think I have to also put this maxima in my computer, because I was good in once upon a time, but of late I am not using. So then it is easier to prove that this is an ellipse, and that is a periodic solution. So today's the lecture is up to this 1 hour.